From bodybuilders with disabilities to those who train on the street, today we're going to talk about the most unusual physiques in the world of bodybuilding. I'll start with a group of bodybuilders who are theoretically very well qualified to build impressive muscle in a very short time, just as large athletes, due to their longer muscles, have to build up a lot of muscle mass in order to visually increase their musculature, and this process therefore takes a very long time. Very small athletes theoretically have to put in much less effort. Even a minimal increase in muscle mass has an effect on the appearance of the figure. One of the most famous dwarf bodybuilders is Jason Owen. Articles from the year 2012 claim that he is the only person with dwarfism who can bench press more than twice his body weight. He is 134.5 centimeters tall and weighs 70 kilograms, and his bench press record is said to be 165 kilograms, which is exactly 236% of his weight. You can find photos of him on stage in poses such as abdominal and legs, most muscular, or the back lat spread. I liked him best in the last position, where he showed his broadest back muscles, which start just above the hips and also have good definition. In the lower part, however, you can see that it was not his best day in terms of definition, as he is very blurred there. His deficiencies in muscle separation could also be seen from the front. The cuts between the quadriceps heads are virtually invisible, although note the great veins on his chest and shoulders. Mini Arnie also posed in the off-season, where a gigantic transformation reminiscent of Lee Priest's shapeshifts can be seen. A more recent phenomenon is Tom Agnew. Also worth mentioning is Australian David Clark, who already looks very impressive and versatile, and the quality of his physique is reflected in the number of trophies that can be seen in this photo, for example. The list doesn't end with these names, of course. Gunnar Anderson, the man with one pectoral muscle, also has an unusual physique. Of course, this should be put in inverted commas because he does have this muscle, but on the right side, the chest only takes up the upper half, or perhaps even just the upper third. One might assume that this was the result of an injury and a tear in this part, but it turned out that Gunnar was born with such a chest. As he said, this is the result of Poland syndrome. This disorder involves, among other things, underdevelopment of the chest muscles or short fingers on the same side. It is assumed that it is caused by improper positioning of the fetus and pressure on the blood vessels that supply the muscle. In addition to the visual effect, one might assume that the syndrome also affects the ability to exercise, but it turns out that this is not as much the case as one might think. In an interview with Louis Marco, Anderson admitted that in some exercises, especially those that involve the lower part of the chest, such as the bench press with negative incline, the right part fatigues faster, while in other movements this is practically imperceptible. On Gunnar's YouTube channel, I found a chest workout of his where he showed a series of standard exercises: barbell press, dumbbell press, stretches and dips. In the bench press, it's noticeable that he finishes the movement with a 90-degree bend in the elbows, which he says prevents excessive strain on the right shoulder as the chest part is missing. In terms of strength in the incline press, the bar here weighed almost 98 kilograms and he performed 8 repetitions, although from the 5th repetition onwards it is difficult to say to how much he was supported by his assistant. However, the first 4 repetitions can definitely be credited to him. He was able to utilize his uniqueness very well and build an impressive and complete physique despite his handicap. This has earned him a lot of fame and over 60,000 followers on Instagram, and Louis Marco's video about him has been viewed over 1 million times. Anderson has also developed his own training program, and his personality can be an inspiration to anyone. Perhaps even more motivating are the person and the story of the Indian bodybuilder Sham Singh Shera. What immediately stands out is the enormous asymmetry resulting from the atrophy of the quadriceps muscle in his right leg. As a child, the Indian man contracted polio, which can have effects like those shown in the picture: severe deformities of the limbs that often prevent independent mobility. Shera is not only able to walk without crutches, but has also built a great bodybuilding physique despite his defect, winning the Mr. World title 3 times, triumphing twice in Mr. Asia competitions, and finishing first in Mr. India 9 times. He won all these titles in the bodybuilding category for athletes with disabilities. In an interview from the year 2019, he said, "I have won many titles in India in the last 10 years and am unbeaten in my category. I am now targeting big competitions like the Arnold Classic and Mr. Olympia." He also added that he plans to turn pro soon, which of course will be his ticket to the biggest competitions in the US. The description of his Instagram profile currently lacks the addition IFBB Pro, so I guess he couldn't realize these announcements for now. If you look at pictures of him on stage, you can see a very large muscle mass. In addition, he is also perfectly hard and robust in many shots. Especially worth mentioning is his healthy leg, which is of excellent size and quality. I have not been able to find any information about his height and weight, but here you can see that his arms have reached a circumference of 22 inches, almost 56 centimeters. One wonders how he exercises his legs, considering the size of the calf of his diseased leg, as this element is similar to that of the healthy limb. There's a video on his channel of a leg training session in which you can see that he doesn't spare the leg that was affected by polio in any way. He does all the exercises as normal. Does this mean that it has practically the same strength as the left one, or does he just use it but does most of the work with the right one? I don't know, but in case anyone assumed he was doing squats on one leg, that's absolutely not the case. Sham Singh Shera is rightly very popular, as evidenced by the number of almost 400,000 people who follow him on Instagram. An incredibly inspiring person. Let's hope we actually see him on the Arnold Classic and Mr. Olympia stage in the future. And finally, there is Jacques Sayagh, a homeless bodybuilder who trains on the streets of Paris and became famous after the release of a training video from 2014. In it, the 50-year-old presents a perfect, superbly sculpted physique that he developed by exercising with elastic bands and belts attached to gates or lamps. The video also showed him preparing for a bodybuilding competition that was due to take place in a few days' time. And all this while he was living on the streets, suffering from AIDS, a destroyed liver, and a series of addictions, not just to alcohol but also to heroin and cocaine. You can find photos of him standing on stage when he was much younger. As he said, he hasn't been away from sport since he was a child. Most of the material about him comes from the years 2014 and 2015. You can see what he looks like today on his Facebook profile, where he posts regularly. He also recently posted a photo of his chest, which proves that he is still in good shape at the age of 60. Let me know in the comments what unusual bodybuilders you know.